1. Happy Thursday night, everybody, and welcome to Wally DM. We have a special show for you tonight. Joining me to talk about a few projects coming up in the Goodman Games pipeline is Chris Doyle from Goodman Games.
Hey everybody, how's everybody doing? My name is Chris Doyle. I am the Director of Product Development on the 5e side for Goodman Games. And I'm glad to be back with you again, Wally. I believe this is my
Yes.
second appearance, I think, on your show.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I was looking at it. It was November 2023 that we brought you on to talk about. Still, my favorite is the Grim Tooth Traps book. So, yeah,
Yes,
and that's out now. I can't believe
it
it.
is out.
Actually holding
So,
it. So very cool.
yeah,
Um,
from what I understand, the 5e version is out of print already.
really?
So yeah, it is
Oh
already going back
man.
to be reprinted. So.
Wow. It must be all those great essay people that you had in there, you know.
That's usually what people get. You laugh at that, but there are the hardcore OAR collectors.
Uh-huh.
They want those essays, and
Really?
they're always like,
Okay.
that's their first question is like, who did you get for essays? And it's
That's
like, oh,
awesome.
okay, well, here's our list of folks and everything. So,
Oh, very
but
cool.
yeah, thank you for contributing that. And like I said,
Yeah.
that's how I found your channel, and I love your videos.
Thank you.
They're so
Thank you.
much fun to watch. I got my kid hooked on them, so. He watches them, and his whole gaming group, I think, watches them too. So it's like, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Very cool. Thank you very much. Before we get started, just a quick shout out to everybody in the chat. Agile Monk, Mortal Origins, and Dr. Feargood. A few others in there. Thank you very much for joining us. And for those of you that are interested to see what we have going on and what we're talking about, there are links in the description below that will take you to the backer kit page for Goodman Games. We're actually going to talk about 3 of those. But before we do, just a shameless self plug on my own, I've also got a backer kit slash Kickstarter coming on February 18th. The quintessential guide to urban encounters. There's a link for that buried in there somewhere too. Yes, but let's talk about the backer kit for Terror from the Underdeep. I want to switch screens. I'm going to bring this up. This is already funded by a lot. It is. This is looking really, really good. You have 11 days left to go. Over 1,300 backers. Tell me about Terror from the Underdeep. What is this?
All right. So Terror from the Underdeep is, if folks are familiar with the old classic iconic Giants adventures back from the day, I think you know which ones I'm talking about. This is kind of our homage to this treatment and everything. But as Goodman Games always does, we wanted to put our own spin on it. So if you remember the original G1, G2, G3, which then led into D1, D2, D3, and then eventually into Q1, the classic Queen of the Spiders whole trilogy, not trilogy, I guess, sept whatever, 7 adventures linked together. This is our version, so this is our take. But we want to do it differently. So the very first thing you'll notice, we have 9 chapters of adventures. We have 6 featured around the giants. So we wanted to
Wow.
feature each of the iconic giants and give them their own adventure. And what's even cooler about this, I think, at least on the development side, is we got a different writer for each of those 6 adventures so that each of them would have a completely different feel and a
Mm-hmm.
completely different theme and flavor. So obviously you've got frost giants, fire giants, hill giants, stone giants, cloud giants, and storm giants, but we didn't want them all to feel samey. We didn't want, oh,
That's a
here's
good idea.
another, fire giant hall. Here's
Mm-hmm.
another, frost giant hall. We wanted them to be very, very different. And I can even reveal that 2 of the giant layers actually are mobile and move around, which is kind of
Oh.
cool. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's kind of neat. So this whole box set is what we're calling it, a giant box adventure. So
Mm-hmm.
you'd think we would stop there at 6 adventures featuring giants, but no, we
Yeah.
don't. Because the giants are not the real ultimate big bad in this. There's another one down in the Underdeep that's kind of pulling all the strings. So we've developed a complete cult, and the cult is actually being directed by the big bad, which it's out there, so I can say what it is, but it's a kraken
Oh
that's
my.
stuck down in the Underdeep and it's trying to escape. And so we are obviously having a lot of fun with that. So you're not going to find a lot of dark elves in this adventure, but there is a huge chapter. It's basically your long trek through the Underdeep. Then we have this sunken city
Mm-hmm.
setting, which is basically imagine Venice, except it's in the Underdark. and it's got flooded streets and everything, but it's in decay and ruin and everything. And then we have the final climatic encounter, which is out in the middle of the Dark Sea, which is an ocean underneath the world.
Oh wow.
And that's where the big bad, the Kraken, is holed up with the cult followers and everything. And you have to kind of track it down and then put an end to it. Otherwise, it's going to return to the surface and wreak havoc.
That is crazy. So the giants are just like the introduction, and then you get to like the real
Yeah.
part of the story. Oh my goodness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the giant adventures, like I said, there's 6 chapters for the
Mm,
giants and there's 3 for the Underdeep. You can play them in any order,
that's
except
cool.
for the one, the Storm Giant one kind of leads into the Underdark. But any you can start with Fire Giants if you want, or you can just play a couple of them if you want. You can
Mm,
pull them out and do different things with them, but you don't have to go Hill Giant, Stone Giant, Frost Giant. I mean, it makes sense to do that for the leveling, but
mm,
we give you suggestions on how you can alter the levels of each of the adventures so that, like, if you wanted to take them out of order, because there's clues at the end of each one that will lead you to this adventure or that adventure. We really wanted it to be kind of sandboxy, if you will, even though there's 6 adventures, but we wanted them to all
mm.
place. But also, if the game master and his players just don't have the patience to go through all 6 of them, there's ways that you can go through 1 or
Just
2 of them and then kind of get
sort
right
of
into
in.
the Underdeep. There's also ways you can skip parts of the Underdeep too and just take bits and pieces that you want.
So is this all going to be in just like one book then? Just one big
So it is
thing?
a huge box set.
Oh,
So
okay.
it is a box set, and it is 4 books inside that box set. The first
Holy
book is the
smokes.
Game Master's Guide,
Hmm.
which has got all your NPC stats, new monster stats, the intro, the setup, details about the cult and all the bad guys and everything, and new magic items, new spells, the whole 9 yards.
Hmm.
And then you've got 3 whole books that are just the adventures. The first 3 giant adventures are in the second book. Then the next 3 giant adventures are in the third book, and then the fourth book, which is the biggest of all of them, is just the Underdeep.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Um. So I have a favorite giant, but I'm curious, what's yours? Do you have a favorite that's like, if you had to pick one,
Yeah, it's probably the Storm Giants.
is it the Storm
I'm
Giants?
really into the aquatic theme, so
Okay.
and I didn't even direct my writers, but they actually picked the Storm Giant. It would have, trust me, it would have made thematically more sense to actually put the Storm Giants on the top of a mountain
Uh-huh.
to get to the Underdark, but instead they
Right.
put them at the bottom of the water at the ocean. So I'm like, okay, we'll deal with this. So,
Oh,
and we did. But that's they're probably my favorite, and then
mm,
the Frost Giants are probably a very close second to
nice.
that.
Yeah, I'm a fan of cloud giants.
Okay,
Those are
wow,
my
okay,
favorites.
Cloud
So
Giants. Oh, there you go.
yeah, so as soon as I get this, I'll be thumbing right to that section, of course. But
Oh yeah, yeah, nice. Cool.
now, there are some add-ons, and I don't know if I'm jumping into the add-on, but to add, but I have watched a little bit of the Goodman Games live streams on the YouTube channel,
Hmm.
and I have been hearing about this clam box. Is that one of the add-ons? And if so, do you want to take us through that? So, in addition to these 4 books, what else can we expect?
Okay, so there's a lot. Folks who are familiar with Goodman Games know that we do crowdfunding now. The crowdfunding campaigns take so much time and effort that we put a whole bunch of things into them. So there's the main product, which is the Terror from the Underdeep base product, if you will. And that box set's going to have the 4 books. It's going to have, if you back, you're going to get stretch goal material, which is going to be a whole nother book. There's poster maps in there. There's going to be character sheets. Not everybody has high level characters. This is a very high level campaign. Obviously,
Really?
it starts at 8th level actually and goes all the way to 16th level.
Wow, that's
So
good.
we did that on purpose because we feel that's kind of an underserved part of the market, if you
Hmm.
will. So we definitely wanted to give that a shot. We do understand that most people generally stop playing D&D around 8th to 10th level.
Hmm.
So we're like, well, let's see if this goes over pretty well. So you're going to get poster maps in there. You're actually going to get inspiration tokens as well. You're going to get these a card stock sheet of punch out inspiration tokens that you can use that the game master can hand out at the game table to
Hmm.
indicate if you've got inspiration or not. We all mark it off on our character sheet if our character's got inspiration, but sometimes having a physical item
Yeah.
just reminds you. You look down and you see that little token and you're like, oh, I'm using my inspiration. You hand it back to the game master and then you can get it again and everything. So we feel that physical props like that are important. And the cardstock ones are fine. They're going to have art on both sides, all brand new art. However, we do have an add-on that's an upgrade where it's the poker style chips. So they're
Oh,
really
that's
nice,
cool.
heavy chips if you want
Yeah.
to actually spend a little money and really get some fancy
Hmm.
inspiration tokens. You can do that too. And what's really cool is during one of our early live streams, we were talking about stretch goals. And one of the backers, actually, I think it might even been before the campaign launched, so it was a pre-backer, if that's such a thing, came up with the idea. We mentioned that we had two of the giant layers are mobile, and they're like, why don't you include tokens for the poster maps to show where the giant layers happen to be? And we thought that was such a great idea. We
That's
added
awesome.
that into our stretch goals. So,
That's super
so
cool.
we're actually, we do listen to the backers and everything. But I think your original question was the clamshell box.
Yes. Yes.
So a regular box is it's literally a box. You pull the
Hmm.
lid off and that's it. So the clamshell box though is available as an add-on. We really weren't sure how well received this was going to be because a lot of people are like, why didn't you just make it in a clamshell box? And we're like, well, it's expensive and it's like the product is already expensive. So
Hmm.
we're not sure how popular it's going to be. But so this is kind of imagine like a book opening up and kind of like a clam, if you will, opening
Okay.
up. And you could actually set it on your game table and use it as a screen if you wanted to. And that led us to all sorts of other cool ideas of like, well, we should put something on the inside of the box then that you could use at the game table. Or we should put these little straps in on the edges that you could print things out and attach them on the inside of the screen.
That's
So it's
cool.
going to be really cool. There'll be foil treatment on it, and several of the stretch goals are going to be what we like to call upgrades to that box, like
Hmm.
thicker cardboard, more foil on it, those little bands on the inside and everything, printing on the inside of it. So and it has proved to be very popular, the clamshell add-on. So we're very pleased, and we'll be honest, we're kind of trying this out because we have other ideas down the
Hmm.
road using boxes. And we kind of wanted to see how this was going to go and how well this is going to be received. And from what we can see, folks really
They like
like
it,
the
huh?
upgraded box idea. Yeah, they
Yeah.
really do. So,
Yeah.
so
And,
yeah, so we're going with it.
and from what I heard too, the only way to get that is through backing it on Backer Kit because
Yep, that
once
will be
that's
the
over.
only
Hmm.
way. Yep. Now, if you're a retailer and you get the retail pack, I believe the retail pack gets you 6 copies of them, so you could upgrade the retail pack too and get 6 of them as well. So some retailers might have it. So if you ever see one in the store and it's the clamshell, you might want to jump on it because they're going to be really limited. Obviously, we'll print a bunch of extras because of damage and that with shipping. So some might be available on our website, but they will be pretty limited afterwards.
Very cool. Just to address the chat real quick, if anyone has any questions or topics you want me to bring up, definitely just put them in the chat there. If you have a question, if you can just type like in all caps questions so I can see it. And then with that in mind too, a few more people, just a quick shout out. Thanks for joining us, Fred from How to RPG, my buddy there, one of my fellow live streamers. Good to see you, buddy. Pale Rider, Nacho Man, and thank you everyone for joining us. Very cool. So you mentioned this is going to be 5th edition, and of course we know that 5e is going through 2014 to 2024, a little bit of mixture of both. Have you had any playtesting of how this would work with either version? I'm guessing that it doesn't matter which one, but has there been any looking into that?
So internally, we've looked at the 2024 books that we are allowed. Now, we don't get anything and we don't get advanced copies of
Mm-hmm.
anything just because we're in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So we buy the books when they become available to everybody. So we've looked at it and really kind of noticed there's not a whole lot of changes so far. Now, Monster Manual might change that when it comes out in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But for the most part, most of the changes seem to be very player driven. And plus a bit of nuanced rule changes. So this was clearly written for 2014 rules,
Mm-hmm.
without a doubt. And right now we're not even legally allowed to
That makes sense.
put out content that's for 2024 yet. That's supposed to come later on this year.
Mm-hmm.
At some point we will probably be putting out specifically 2024 product. But for now, I could see an errata coming down the road. So the beautiful thing about PDFs is they're kind of living documents, and when you buy any of our products, I shouldn't say any, most of our products, if as long as there's not a license involved, you get a free PDF with them. So if you buy this box set for $72, I think it is, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to get a PDF for free. The amazing thing about PDFs is, again, they're living documents. So we can just go in there and we can put an errata section in and basically give you all those upgraded things down the road if we need to. So,
Yeah.
so that part will be kind of how we address that kind of moving forward.
I noticed that. So like in my my Dreamtooth Trout book, like right in the front cover there, it says
Yep.
visit this product's page on goodmangames.com to receive a free PDF of this book, and it's got a code.
Yep.
So that's really cool.
Yep.
That's a good
So
idea.
it's a lot of people don't realize that. So if you buy a book for us at a
Yeah.
convention or whatever, you'll get one of those codes. And if you ever have a problem with that code, you can just email our customer service team,
That's
info
awesome.
at goodmangames.com, and they will take care of you. They will get you a new code if need be or whatever, or get you set up and everything. So it's something that, we started actually advertising it on the backs of our books and even some of the front of our books that you get a free PDF as well. So
That's very cool. Did we hit all the add-ons already?
There's plenty of other. There is
Oh
this
yeah, let's
wonderful
get into
shirt
those.
that I'm wearing.
Giants. Okay.
Yeah, so I already talked about the inspiration tokens are an add-on. So we also have two of our 5e hardcover compilations we're releasing, Compendiums of Dungeon Crawl number 5 and number 6.
Okay.
These each are 15 adventures, shorter adventures that you can play in 1 to 2 sessions for lower levels, usually levels 1 to 2 or levels 3 to 4. All brand new adventures. Were converted from our old 3rd edition days, but they are all brand new for all intent and purposes. They're almost 20 years old. So those are available. We also have three of our what we like to call our famous adventures. We're updating them, converting them to 5th edition. We have originally DCC number 1, Idols of the Rat King,
Okay.
which was the one that kicked off our 3rd edition product line. DCC number 2, which is FEF number 32, which is the Lost Vault of Sathazar Row, which was written by Mike Mearls. Some folks
really?
might have heard about who Mike Mearls is. Before Mike Mearls joined Wizards of the Coast, he actually, back in the very early 2000s, worked with Joe Goodman at Goodman Games, and he actually was the author of that.
Awesome.
And then the third one in that series is Sailors of the Starless Sea, which was written by Harley Stroh, and that was our very first DCC RPG adventure. We've converted that to 5e, and that's really popular. Now, we were talking earlier, right before the show, Goodman Games is well known for DCC RPG. I mean, that's what we're known about for the last 11 years, 12 years. That's what we've done. Folks don't realize we've been publishing 5e for a while. It's kind of weird. I've been with the company now for 4.5 years. I'm the 5e guy, yet we're still kind of not known for 5e. I don't know. That's probably my personality. Probably has something to do with that.
Oh, I don't think so.
So if people are interested to try out like what our 5e products are like, we actually are doing what we call the return to the $2 adventure. So back in the early 2000s, we actually created an adventure and published it and sold it for $2. $2. That was a complete adventure. Maps, player handouts, stats, the whole 9 yards. We're doing that again. We are doing that again, and 5th edition fantasy number 34. It's called the Red Dragon's Treasure Map. I actually got to write it, which is awesome.
That's so cool.
Which is so much fun for me to do. It's short. It's got player handouts in it. It features a Red Dragon's treasure, and on a cool map and a whole backstory and everything. So if folks are not familiar with what we normally do or not used to our quality or whatever, for $2, and I am kidding you not, $2, and you get a PDF with that for $2. And like we always like to say, you can't even buy a bottle of water for $2 these days.
No, you can't.
The water you're just renting. So this gets to live on your shelf forever. And it's a complete adventure. It's got 10 encounters in it. It's good for 1, maybe 2 sessions of play. Got a lot of good classic tropes. I really worked hard to make sure I got lots of good classic monsters in there. There's green slime, there's sturges. We tried to really fulfill a bunch of the good old classic tropes in there. So we have that available as an add-on, and there's still more. I still have more to talk about that we have in this book. So we have we're doing this little thing, like we're actually messing around with the 5e rules a little bit.
Okay.
So we're actually releasing a playtest packet with this campaign. It's the only way you can get it. So it's called Advanced Advantage. It's kind of what we would do, kind of workshopping and going into the laboratory and messing around with some of the 5e rules. And the first rule that we're highlighting is advantage, basically kind
Hmm.
of turning advantage on its ear and doing it a completely different way.
Okay.
So that's also part of this product too. It's a
Can
short little PDF.
can you share that? How in a nutshell, how are you turning
Yeah,
it
so
upside down?
I certainly can because we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
Advantage in advantage and disadvantage, you roll two die 20s and you take the higher or the lower number depending if you had advantage or disadvantage.
Right.
So in our version, instead of rolling two dice and taking the higher number, you bump up to a die that has more faces if you have advantage,
Oh.
or you bump down to a die that has less faces if you have disadvantage. Folks who play DCC RPG are going to be very familiar with that.
Gonna
Yes, they're going
say
to be
yeah.
very familiar. We're streamlining it. There's not all the crazy dice in there,
Okay.
but some of the cool things. And right now, your chat's probably blowing up. It's like that's not the same. It's like statistically, it's not the same going from a let's just say a die 20 to a die 24. It's not the same as rolling two die 20s. And you're correct. However, you can now stack advantage. You can get advantage more than once or disadvantage more than once. And you can actually apply advantage onto any die roll,
Oh
not
wow.
just a die 20. So if you get advantage on, I don't know, casting a Cure Light Wound spell, maybe
Hmm.
it's not a die 8 that you're rolling each time. You're rolling a die 10, for all of those dice. So we're having some fun with it. We're playing around with it. We are offering a die 24 as part of this campaign. It was a free add-on if you were one of the first 48-hour backers, but you can actually purchase it. So, because we understand you might not have these dice, but there's a lot of ways. There's apps now that you can get to roll these crazy dice and everything.
Hmm.
But we will be releasing 3 more of these playtest packets throughout this year for other crowdfunding. And each one is going to kind of build on it, build on it, build on it, build on it. And then after that, folks are going to get a chance to play test on their own home games,
Hmm.
can provide feedback to us. And then, at the end of the year, we're going to have a bunch of feedback notes and we're going to have a bunch of playtesting notes. And then we're going to go in and we're actually going to create a book in it. It's not going to replace 5e. It's going to, what we call enhance 5e and just like an add-on and everything. So it's a
Wow.
lot of fun. It's definitely a creative exercise for us to do and we love it.
Yeah.
So
That is so cool. Oh, wow. I like that. That sounds like a lot of fun for sure. Before we continue, a big thanks to Agile Monk for gifting some memberships. Thank you very much. And yes, just a reminder that Goodman Games can be found on BackerKit for the crowdfunding. And I have put links to everything in the description below. So there's a link that'll take you directly to the current BackerKit project, which is Terror from the Underdeep, and then there is a generic link that'll take you right to the Goodman Games page, and you can see all of the great stuff that's coming up and the ones that have already been done. So all those links are there. Very good. Um, did we run through all the add-ons then?
No, there's one more,
All right.
and I saved this one for last.
Yes.
So this is the 2-page Underdelves. So for our one of our previous campaigns, the Dungeon Denizens campaign, we did a special book called Dungeon Delves, where it's a collection of short adventures that can be played in one session, and the adventures are all exactly 2 pages long. So you open up the book and you got the 2 pages, page 1, page 2. You can see the whole adventure in one shot. Each adventure includes exactly one piece of art and one map. And obviously, usually about 3 to 5, sometimes 3 to 6 encounter areas. We did this for Dungeon Denizens, and we featured monsters all in Dungeon Denizens.
That's
For
a good
this
idea.
project, we have this big, huge chapter of this long trek through the Underdeep.
Mm.
And we thought, well, it's like we already have set encounters along that way, but it would be really cool if we could have more and have a whole nother book of all these basically little mini lairs and mini encounters that the game master could pick and choose and drop them in along the way whenever he wants to say, oh, this is a cool one, or I don't like this encounter over here, but I really like this one over here.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to develop this book for that. It's going to include 20 different 2-page delves, so it's probably going to be about a 48-page book.
Wow.
But what's really cool
Yeah.
is we are opening it up to backers to actually submit their own 2-page delve to get published in the book alongside of the Goodman Games stable of writers. So if any of you folks out there have dreamed of being professionally published in the RPG industry, this is your chance. And we will pay you. We will make you sign a contract. We will
Mm-hmm.
pay you money for you don't get paid a lot of money. I just warn you right off the bat. But if we select your Underdelve to be included in the book, you'll get a contract, you'll get paid. An artist will professionally draw a piece of art based on your delve, and then a cartographer will draw up the map. You'll send us a little sketch map, and then we'll have that actually professionally done. And your name will appear in the credits, which is really awesome
Yeah.
to do. We are opening only a limited number of slots, and that the number of slots are based on the backer count. I believe we have 6 open slots right now. We're getting very close to unlocking a 7th slot.
Okay.
And I think we can go all the way up and unlock 12 or 13 slots by the
Really?
time we're
Okay.
so.
So
So the
about
more
a max of
backers
12.
we get, the more chances that we'll take your submission.
That's
So
that's really cool. We were talking before the show started. That's one of the ways that I first started getting into publishing myself was I backed Toma Beast 2 by Kobold Press, and they accepted my monster submission, and it was I don't even know how to put it into words, but when the artwork came back and I got to see my monster with the artwork they put in there and it was in the book and everything else, it was just it was very surreal. And
yeah.
yeah, so if you, like Chris said, if you ever thought about doing that, if you back this, I mean, go for it. Draw up your little two-page delve, send it in. You never know. It is quite the experience. So glad to see that you guys are doing that. That's a really cool idea.
So we did this for Dungeon Denizens last year, and we opened up 20 different slots for backers. And we're still using several of those folks to actually design, additional stuff for Goodman Games. So it is a way to get your foot in the door. It's a way to get noticed. Back when I was getting started in this industry, there was very few avenues to get noticed. It was basically Dragon Magazine and Dungeon Magazine and the
Yeah.
RPGA Network. There wasn't, DM's Guild. There wasn't all these. Today, it's the opposite problem. There's too many ways to get noticed, and
That's
therefore
true.
you get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like everybody's on DM's Guild, and anybody can do a crowdfunding and everything. So it's
Yeah.
actually kind of hard to get noticed.
Mhm.
So this is just another way to basically expand our talent pool, and also to give the backers a chance to actually shape this. We've done several polls where we actually ask them questions about how do you want this magic item to work that this particular giant leader has, and then people would submit their ideas to the poll and everything, and then we'd say, all right, here's the winner, this is what the magic trident's going to be. So
That's
we
cool.
love engaging with the actual community doing this, because if
Mhm.
you're going to do all this, if you're going to put all this time and effort in to running a crowdfunding, you might as well at least
Yeah.
A, make it fun,
Yes.
and B, actually engage with people, because that's the advantage of this. It gives folks an opportunity to have their voice heard, and we read every single comment, and again, we listen to them. We actually will, because we come up with great ideas, but when you open it up to all sorts of great ideas, you
Yeah.
just get even more and more. So
Yeah, yeah, that's basically like my entire YouTube channel is I have an idea, but so many people do it so much better than I do. Getting
mhm.
all the responses back, and the more people you get in, the more ideas, and they start building off each other. It's just it's an amazing time to be a content creator. So much different in the '80s when everything you didn't have this reach, and now. Just everything that you can create just by sharing ideas with people from all over the world is just, I mean, honestly, that's just one of the reasons why I love this hobby so much. It's so neat.
Nice.
um Agile Monk says wanted to let you know, Chris, that he did the all in on all of it: box set, books, miniatures, and accessories. He says he's on board.
Awesome. We love that. We
Yeah,
love that.
there you
That is
go.
great.
There you go.
You are not going to be disappointed when that pile arrives. You will have so much material to keep you busy for a long, long time. So
Yeah,
thank you very, very much.
awesome. So is that wrapping up, or is there more? I mean,
No, there's
not
more. I
is
can't
there?
believe there's even more that I
Holy
forgot to
smokes.
mention.
Okay, yeah, let's dig into it.
Minis. And
Oh,
and
the
when I say
miniatures, yeah.
minis, these are giant minis. So it's kind of like jumbo shrimp. It's kind of an
There we go.
oxymoron. But
Yeah.
we actually we're dipping our toe back into the minis field. We've heard that 5e players really like their minis.
Yeah.
So we decided to actually have 3 giant minis made up. We have a storm giant, we have a cloud giant, and we have a frost giant. And we're working with a company that does this professionally. We don't own molds or anything like that. So and we're trying these out. These miniatures, again, they're not really miniatures. They're about 6.5 inches tall.
Like
The
so
Storm Giant's
tiny.
6.5 inches tall. Actually, I can grab 1 second.
Okay, yeah, please do.
Okay. I had it on my wall. I forgot. Actually, I'll have to show you this because here is
Oh my goodness,
the
that
mini,
is
and you can see
huge.
this is a cultist standing at his feet. Actually, I could probably bring that
Oh
up a
yeah,
little bit. Yeah, the light's a little bad, but that's a cultist. That's the size of like
wow.
your adventurer,
So
and
these are
that's
to
how
scale.
big these minis
Hmm.
are.
Hmm.
So we
Wow.
have three of them. Again, we're basically trying it out. We're seeing if this is something that we want to do. Our next crowdfunding is going to be a monster book. So if these go out pretty well, I think you're going to possibly see some monsters that we're going to do in mini format and everything. So yeah, it's something that we're dipping our toe in and seeing how the fans like it.
Yeah, I mean, how cool would that be? Not to just have Dungeon Denizens 1 and 2, but also have miniatures that go with some of those monsters from. Oh,
Yeah,
that
I
would be.
mean, be crazy. And even the possibility of like having the backers choose which minis based on the artwork
Oh,
they want to see. Yeah, we have all these kind of cool ideas to kind of engage
yeah,
people and everything. So we'll
that's super
see. We'll
cool.
see. No promises, no promises there will be minis. So
Wow.
for the next one. But we definitely got three minis lined up for this one. And we'll see it. We'll see how it goes. If they're successful, then we'll be definitely doing more minis.
Okay. Before we do move on, I do have one question. Just I could see this maybe being asked after the show's over. Is there any virtual tabletop assistance, like anything people could use to run these games online?
Not during the campaign, but afterwards, we
Hmm.
will be making VTT tokens and maps
Okay.
available for generic things. We've been going back and forth. There's so many services out there right now. It's kind of
Yeah.
hard to kind of figure out who you should support. Now, it almost feels like if you pick one, then everybody's like, well, I don't use that. I use this one. So I
Yeah.
think we're kind of moving more to the generic model where
Okay.
we'll make the maps available and we'll make the tokens available and then let people use them on whatever platform that they use because it's a very complicated thing, and it's actually gotten us into a little bit of trouble as far as delaying the delivery of some of our things, and
Mm,
we just need to simplify the process a little bit more. So
yeah.
there will be VTTs. We're designing the content with that in mind,
Okay.
but there will not be a VTT component in this campaign.
Okay. Sounds good. Um, is there anything else from Terror from the
I don't
Underdeep?
think so. I
Did we
think we
miss
finally
anything?
covered everything that's in here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just going through. Yeah, we did it. Yeah, we finally talked about everything. It's a lot. It's a lot of material. That's why that all-in pledge costs that much money because there's so much content in there.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
crazy.
It is. So this is currently ongoing. When we have 11 days left, so it
Yep.
ends
It ends on the 11th of
11th of
February.
February. Okay, so
Yep.
all right.
And we'll be live streaming at the end
Oh,
and
that's
doing
right.
overtime mode like we did last time. Last time when we did Caverns of Thracia, our
Uh-huh.
overtime mode, I think went 7 hours, I think.
Okay.
We are preparing for even longer this time. So,
Oh wow.
and there will be what we call overtime bonus goals and everything for every whatever hour that we stay on the air. We're going to live stream apparently for the whole time. So,
That's insane.
so yeah, so it'll be one of those deals where last time I think it was every 15 minutes we were giving away a bonus monster. I'm not sure I could actually probably tell you we're doing monsters again.
Okay.
So the longer that we're in overtime mode, the more monsters we will make available, and those will be in that stretch goal book.
Hmm.
The stretch goal book is going to have exclusive content that only backers get, and the stretch goal book for Caverns of Thracia, I think, ended up being a 72-page book, if I'm not mistaken. So
Wow.
that is like a 15 or a $16 book that you get totally for free.
Oh wow.
This one will probably end up being somewhere along the lines, depending on how many of those monsters we unlock. We've already unlocked six additional two-page delves. And those will be themed around giants, not the Underdeep. So there's
Hmm.
going to be like a hill giant delve, frost giant delve, etc. Actually, we've unlocked five of them. There's one more that needs to be
There's the
unlocked.
storm giant. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other thing that's going to be in that stretch goal book is going to be the what we call the what's in a giant's bag random tables. So
Okay.
in the original G1, there was a table. I think it was a die 20. You roll die 20. It was just a random collection of stuff that you might find in a Hill Giants bag. And we love that. And we're like, wow, this would be kind of cool to actually add this into the campaign. It was one of these things we kind of thought of after the fact.
Yeah.
And we figured we'd make that a stretch goal. And of course, we wanted to do one better. So now we have a different table for each different giant type. So like what a storm giant would have in his bag is going to be completely different than what a hill giant's going to have. So so we have all of those lined up. So those will all be available in that stretch goal book too. So so follow along in the campaign and see that, like I said, the stretch goal book not available after the fact. So the only way you're going to get some of that extra content is going to be becoming a backer. Even if you just back for $1 and get into the pledge manager afterwards, that will get you, if you do up your pledge to a physical reward, you'll get that stretch goal book. So we love our thick stretch goal books. So.
That's super cool. Very cool. Pale Rider asks link for the show. That's going to be on Goodman Games YouTube channel. I did not provide a link in the description, but if you just type in Goodman Games, you'll be able to find their YouTube channel.
And actually, if you go to BackerKit, the BackerKit page, it actually simulcasts on the page too.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so if you actually just go to the campaign page, that live stream that we call it the wrap-up party will be live streamed at the same time on BackerKit.
Very cool. Neat. Let's move on to the next one, because after this is over, I see that launching in March, you have another project, and
which is like not that long from now.
Well, no, February is one of the shortest months, and then they come right back out. And just like you like take a break, take a few minutes, grab a donut and a coffee, and then you're right back at it.
And right back at it. And this campaign will be for both DCC and 5e. So the DCC fans who have been kind of like, hey, how come we don't get Terror from the Underdeep for us? And we're like, well, there was reasons why. But now everybody will be able to kind of play in the playground. So our next one in March is Dungeon Denizens 2.
Yes.
And for folks who are not aware, but our book Dungeon Denizens is actually been delivering for the last couple of months, and is going to be in stores very soon. This is the 5e version. Mm-hmm. I've also got the DCC version here as well. And this is a massive monster book. 550 plus monsters.
Wow.
In this book. The 5e book is 600 pages long. And packed to the gills with all sorts of monsters, every single challenge rating. So we are doing a follow-up. That was one of our more successful crowdfunding campaigns a couple of years ago. We're excited to finally get that to everybody's hands. That was a full color book. We'd never done a full color book before. As a company, and we've certainly not done a single book that large, and also in both versions. So it was like 1,000 pages of content.
I can't even imagine. But before you do go on to talk about the next one, if somebody missed the backer kit for the original Dungeon Denizens. Is it out now for everybody, or is it just fulfilling to? I asked for people because I missed it.
Yeah,
I want a copy. So
I think we're still delivering some of them to the backers as we speak. But it's going to be in our web store. I'm not sure if it's up for pre-order yet on our web store, but it will be very soon. But it will be going to stores in the next couple of weeks. I forget exactly what the timing is. So we do try to get everything out to the backers first, even the international backers.
Idea, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it will be available. You will be able to get it. Even if it goes out of print, this is one that we'll probably be reprinting. The one thing you will not get is those 20 bonus monsters that the backers created, because that's in this special edition. But you'll still get 550 different monsters, and that was a blast to work with that. So
that is so cool. So following that, you have Dungeon Denizens 2.
Yes. I'm gonna just throw it right to you, and you might know a little bit of something about this, because the last I checked, I think you might have actually designed a few monsters for this book.
I did. So I was looking through to see how many that I did. I believe I submitted 11 monsters. I could be wrong.
That sounds about right.
Yep. About 11 monsters, and if memory serves me correct. So this is fun for me because we talked, I think the original email for this you sent me maybe September 2023.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And then we all met up, and then I think our our deadline submission to have all of our monsters in was the end of 2023, and now
Hmm.
it's just coming out. So it's just like I
Yeah.
remember doing all these, and I before we started I was like, I need to go back and remember what all my monsters were.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's so
It's
cool to see this now it's coming out, just like, hey, I submitted some stuff for that. It's gonna be so neat. And
yep.
if memory serves me correctly, this is going to be geared more towards lower level
Correct. Yeah. So
characters.
there's this book. Yeah, we were nuts doing the 550 that last time. Nobody does that because we were like we needed to come up with something catchy. We're like, how do we distinguish ourselves from all the other monster books that are out there? And we were like, oh, 500 monsters for 5e. That sounds like a great idea, doesn't it? And then my boss signed off on it. And then in one of our other production meetings, I was like, you know what sounds better than 550 monsters for 5e? I was like, 555 monsters sounds great. And it was like an extra 55 monsters. And my boss is like, there was like silence on the Zoom call. And then all of a sudden he said, that's great. Let's do it. So, yeah. And again, we probably shouldn't have. That was way too many more monsters. And I don't even know if people want to be lugging around a 600-page book. So we're bringing it back a little bit. So this will be
Okay.
like 350 monsters. It's going to focus on lower level monsters. So generally your CRs of 0 to 5. There's a couple of 6s and 7s kind of sprinkled in there. But for the most part, it's what we're calling kind of our low level challenges because most folks play low level
Yeah.
D&D. I mean, it's well known, documented. Most they get to about 10th level and they pretty much either retire those characters and go to something else, or they do one shots or
Hmm.
something. So we were thinking about like a theme for this book, and we're like, well, let's do it like just low level and everything. There
Yeah.
will be a DCC component of this too. So if DCC is your game, you'll be able to get your DCC version. It's
Nice.
the same monsters. So I got the 11 monsters from Wally. He sent them in, and then I send them to my DCC team, and they actually convert them to DCC rules.
That's so
So
cool.
you get the same monsters, basically just two different rule systems. Everything. The lore is for the most part the same, but obviously the statistics are going to be very, very different.
Hmm.
And again, full color book, all artwork. So you're gonna see 11 pieces of
Yes.
art for your
I'm excited.
monsters, and several of them you will be able to purchase. And if you are interested in purchasing original art for one of your monsters, you just need to reach out to me, and I'll,
I
I'll hook you
will.
up with the artist and everything. So, or go to one of the conventions that our artists are at and everything. We have several of the backers last year.
Really.
We put them in contact with the artist, and they actually bought the original art for their monster. Most of the art that we do for these books are created in physical media, so
Hmm.
it's not done on a computer.
Hmm.
So these are actual paintings, watercolors, or whatever,
That's
acrylics,
so
whatever the
cool.
heck they use. I'm not an artist. But anyway, these are physical things that you can own and you can frame. I purchased one of the original pieces of art from Dungeon Denizens 1 that my son actually converted the monster, and I gave it
That's
to him
cool.
for his 21st birthday. So
Oh,
framed it
that's
up
so
and
cool.
everything. So it's really neat. So I mean,
Oh,
I'm a sucker. I have a lot of original art, so I'm a sucker for it. But I understand that they're very expensive, and a lot of folks can't get into that. But if you can, and actually on some of our campaigns, we've actually been in the Pledge Manager, we've actually been selling original art. Some of the artists, we've been actually putting like 10 pieces of original art up there, first come, first serve, and they sell out like instantly. So
really?
yeah, so if you've backed any of our other campaigns, get that pledge manager filled out right away, and you might see an option to buy an original piece of artwork from something. So
Hmm.
folks tend to really like that, or just go to one of the conventions that we're at
Yeah.
and meet some of the artists. They usually have their art with them, and you can buy it, and it's just take it with you. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I,
it's a
I'm
lot of
I'm
discussion.
definitely interested in getting a couple that I've done. That's as we previously were talking about. That's just one of the neatest things is when you write something and then an artist reads
Yeah,
what you wrote and then puts it onto the
brings
canvas,
it to
and it's
life.
just yeah, it's
Yeah.
just yeah, no greater feeling in the world. It's so cool. One of the other things that I remember when I was writing these is we were paying a little bit more special attention to maybe some creature types and some locations
Yep.
that seem to be neglected a little bit.
Yep. So inevitably, when we do one of these, when you need 350 monsters for a project, I mean, we don't have one or two writers doing this. That's just silly. So we cast a pretty wide net out there. I think we have something like 20 plus. Actually, if you add in the DCC writers and the 5e writers, we probably have th over 30 designers actually working on
Wow.
monsters. So, and generally when we do this, we'll just put an open call and say, hey, people, we need monsters. And they'll send us concepts and we make sure that they don't like overlap. We make sure that we don't get, a vampire
Mhm.
fish or two vampire fish that we don't want, or something that's already been published in Dungeon Denizens 1, for example.
Right.
So we'll throw that net out there and then we'll get that first like 250 monsters in. And then we throw everything into a spreadsheet. And then we look at things and we're like, wow, we have like very few Arctic monsters, or
Mhm.
we have very few, undead or something like that, or fae, or monsters that hang out in urban locations. So then usually when we'll put that second call out, and I believe you were part of that like second
Yes.
wave of calls. Yeah, I was like, oh, hey, we could really use some Arctic monsters. It's like, oh, you already sent me 7 monsters. I'm like, but if you have a couple of Arctic ideas you can send me, I'm like,
Mhm.
I will definitely take those. And folks love that because they're like, they know they're filling a niche and they're
Mhm.
like, oh, it's like, you're going to definitely take it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, generally, because we like to kind of give a really nice rounding thing. Like the first Dungeon Denizens we did, we were very careful to make sure we had all the CRs from 0 to 30.
Mhm.
So and we manipulated some of that on the back end. We're like, oh, we don't have a CR 27, but we do have 3 26s. So well, let's just bump one of those guys up to 27.
Yeah.
But for this time, we were like, we were lacking urban monsters, fey monsters, and Arctic monsters. There was probably something else in there too.
Celestials was another one.
Yeah, Celestials is another
Yeah.
one, and it's hard to do dragons. There's dragons in this book,
Mhm.
dragons, low CR dragons. How does that work? And it's
Mhm.
like, well, we got to work around for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so and same with fiends and that. I will warn you, there's a lot of imps in this book, so
That's
it's
cool.
like folks were like, oh, I can do a low level,
Yeah.
an imp, that's I could definitely do that. So, but yeah, no, we have a lot of fun. It is probably one of the more fun projects to work on. And the last probably 6 months, all the art's been coming in.
Mm.
And we have a weekly production meeting, and we all can't wait. We get through our updates and everything, so we can get to the layout guy because then he shares the art that's come in over the last week, and
Oh,
it's
that's awesome.
basically just showing pictures, and it's just like really cool to be like, oh, I remember that, and I'm like, oh, I remember that. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that submission came in, and seeing them come to life is amazing. And
Oh.
and we've been working with so many new and different artists lately. It's been
Mhm.
really fascinating to see different styles and everything. So, absolutely wonderful. So, very rewarding project to work on.
I can imagine. Approximately how many artists do you think will be on this? I'm just curious.
Probably in excess of 20, I'm gonna
Yeah.
say. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
we keep increasing our stable of artists because we have so many projects going on. So,
Wow.
yeah, I would say probably easily we're gonna have 20 artists on this.
That's
So plus
crazy.
different covers, we have several different covers. Yeah, so it's awesome. And the link, I think you said you were gonna put the link for this one. The link for this is actually the landing page. So
Yes.
this is if you guys click on the link for Dungeon Denizens 2, it'll actually bring you to the page that says notify me on launch, and it'll actually keep you up to date on any changes. We've actually been putting out material and polls before everything launches now. So
Good idea.
we actually engage in the backers before the crowdfunding even starts. So
Yeah.
so if you would definitely want, if you're interested in a big old monster book, follow along on that landing page, and that'll get you in the know about everything.
Do you mind if I share one? Do you
Go
mind if
for it. No, I was
Okay.
going to ask you to.
Sweet. Okay.
I want to hear
Okay.
what your like favorite monster is, or
Okay.
talk about one of your
Um.
monsters.
Well, I think my favorite has to be and what I appreciated about this project was there's a few like we need humanoids, we need celestials, we need Arctic monsters, and that helps me focus a little bit more than just
Yeah.
like just give me 11 monsters.
Yep.
So probably one of my favorites is actually the humanoid race that I created called the Vingamar, which are
Yes.
they're like a humanoid with like plant like abilities and these long vine braided hair with special abilities. But my favorite one mechanic wise is a celestial. It's called the Luminarch Warden. And I think the reason why I like that so much is because it doesn't attack. It's got, I actually specifically put the dodge as its action because it just reacts to you. It gets 3 reactions and 5 E-terms instead of just 1. And you're going to find these, they're going to be guarding some type of a holy relic or some type of a holy area where you're not supposed to be trespassing. So if you stay out of the area and you leave them alone, they're going to leave you alone. But if you persist, maybe you're sent there because you really need this item to fight the evil bad guy or whatnot. They're going to fight back until you leave. And so with that, I gave them as a bonus action. They have like an aura that can do things to you, and then I've got the luminescent rebukes. So if you hit them, they hit you back with these reactions. It was one of the things I like about designing monsters, especially for 5th edition, is trying to find something that hasn't been done before, and trying to find those unique abilities that, and maybe not break but bend the rules to just to have some like cool effects. But yeah, all the monsters that submitted, it was hard to pick any of them. I like all of them, but those are the two mechanically and lore wise that I like the best.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, it's great. We love, and we always have some of our designers on our like launch shows and our wrap party and that, because we want to hear from them. We want them to just explain to people how excited they are for their monsters, because that's what we want the folks that buy the book to be excited. And it's like every single, ideally all 500 monsters are going to be home runs and they're going to be great, but they're not going to be. They're going to, they're situational, and they're, so it's like they're good for this or good for that and everything. But it's just the ideas. I mean, monster books are so popular, just to flip through the pages, sometimes just to look at the art and just be like, oh, I know what that guy does. And it's like, that guy's a big brute that's going to just totally hammer us. And well, that one's not, So that's what's fascinating about monster books. So I think they've always got a place. It's why they're so popular. I mean, we've actually avoided kind of getting into the monster game because we thought it was kind of a crowded market. And then finally, and that was the one for DCC. That was one of the things we've always said was we're never going to do a DCC monster book. Well, when we announced that we were doing this 5e monster book, the DCC crowd was like, well, we want a monster book. And it's like, you can't not give us a monster book. So when we first did Dungeon Denizens 1, we weren't planning on doing a DCC book. We had DCC folks designing 5e monsters because we didn't think there was going to be an opportunity for them to design DCC monsters. And then after we're like, we had all the monsters and we're like, well, now we need DCC versions of this. So this time coming around, the monsters are going to definitely feel a little bit more DCC because our design process, it started out as a book that was DCC and 5e. So about half of them were designed by the DCC team, half of them the 5e team, and then blend them together. So
now, do you have a favorite monster that either you submitted or that is going to be in the book? Any little trick you want to share?
So for Dungeon Denizens 1, my favorite is the Inferal, which is the demonic squirrel. The inspiration, I created them. The inspiration was I saw these big, huge black squirrels with red eyes up in Canada when I was up in Canada, and they freaked me out. They were like nightmarish. So I designed them as a demonic squirrel, and they have these beady eyes that will stun you. And then they'll come and swipe your little stuff, your magic items in that, and then they have extra dimensional cheek pouches so that they can shove like a whole wand in their cheek. And then they disappear and take off, and then you wake up and you're like, oh wait, where's all my stuff, or where's my cool stuff? They can innately detect magic. So those are my go-to favorite from Dungeon Denizens 1. Dungeon Denizens 2, there's so many, and I've been dealing with them a lot lately in between all the terror from the Underdeep. But there's an Arctic wyvern that we're actually designing a whole adventure around, which is pretty fascinating. And we're actually pulling in some of the other Arctic creatures that are also from the book in there. I sent the spreadsheet to a prospective author, and the author was like, I like this monster, and I'm like, and all these that are kind of somewhat similar to that, and created a whole adventure based around this wyvern, and actually trying to capture the wyvern alive, not even trying to kill it. So so that's probably one of my favorites. I'm trying to think of some of the others. There's just been some great. There's one called the Tooth Fairy, which sounds like you know what it's going to be, but then when you see the artwork, you will be haunted. You will be absolutely haunted by the artwork for that one. And don't worry, we will make sure we share that artwork during the campaign because it's particularly haunting. So
I love haunt, anything that just makes you remember it and maybe even turn the page. I love that.
Exactly. Because Tooth Fairy, you've probably got this opinion what this Tooth Fairy is going to look like. No, I'll give a hint. I'll give you a hint. One of the DCC designers developed the Tooth Fairy, so that should give you a little bit of hint of just how weird it is and everything. So
Awesome. Before we move on, looks like Agile Monk is out of here. Hey, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And also, thank you to everyone in the chat that is still with us and hanging out. Appreciate everybody being here tonight and joining us. Anything else about Dungeon Denizens 2? That's pretty
There
much
is
it.
going to be a bunch of support products that are also going to be releasing as add-ons for this. We will have our 2-page delve book as we
Sweet.
always do.
Okay.
So folks will be able to get that, and that's going to be a similar thing. We are going to open up monster submissions from backers again, so folks will be able to contribute to actually get their monster designed
awesome.
and actually included. So we're definitely going to do that again. Let's see, what are some of the other things? We have so we did a system neutral product years ago
Mm-hmm.
called How to Write Adventures That Don't Suck.
Okay.
And we actually used to do a seminar by that title.
Uh-huh.
And eventually we were like, someone was like, you should write a book about this because you guys write, we've been doing adventures for over 20 years and we've kind of gotten pretty good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So we would at first we got a bunch of designers and we did essays and we put them in. But then probably about, I'm gonna say maybe 10 years ago, we did one where we got a whole bunch of folks from the industry luminaries that provided essays and some really big heavy hitters from back the old TSR days and everything. And we did one of those, and that book is so popular. I think it's on its 6th printing. It's been translated to other languages.
Oh my goodness.
And we do nothing. We don't market the book. We don't do anything for it. There are some game stats in it, but it is not a book with stats. It's literally a bunch of essays on how to write adventures, basically. So we are actually going to do another one of those.
Nice.
And we have an amazing list of folks that are going to participate in that.
Okay.
I'm getting the essays in as we speak. Folks are going to recognize most of the names that will be on that list. There'll probably be about 20, 24 of those essays. We're very excited about that book. There will be a couple of other 5th edition adventures that are in there. There's going to be one more conversion from one of our famous adventures back then. And then there's going to be a whole host of additional DCC material in there, DCC adventures.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to do a reprinting of the Monster Alphabet, which was one of our other system neutral books back in the day. It was literally kind of like those kids books. A is for apple, B is for banana, except monsters. So yeah, so we're doing one of those, and we've got amazing cover art that's being worked on by a very recognizable name. All this stuff will be revealed in time, folks. So
is this all 2025 stuff?
This is all stuff that's coming out with the Dungeon Denizens 2
oh my goodness.
So crowdfunding, excuse me.
Okay.
Kickstarter. But yeah, so no, there's going to be a host of things. So in addition to the Big Fat Monster book, there will be all of these other things coming out as well. Probably be another t-shirt. There's going to be some really, really cool things. And keep your eyes on the Terror from the Underdeep campaign, because there's going to be a really cool announcement for our previous backers that folks might be interested in, and also that you might, if you back Terror from the Underdeep, there might be some reasons why you want to back Dungeon Denizens 2. So we're doing some really, really neat things.
Cool.
So keep an eye out on our YouTube channel for that. I just filmed a video a couple of days about that reveal. Yeah. So we're always doing cool, interesting things. So
absolutely, and I like to. It seems like you've Goodman Games has picked up a lot on putting videos out there as well, so you can share it with people and stuff like that. So that's been very helpful to keep up.
Definitely. Some people, that's the way they consume things these days. They don't want to read an article on what's coming out. They want to hear the game designer talk about it for 5 or 10 minutes. And so that's what we've been doing. So, and there's those articles are, there's other videos out there about that. Like if folks want more information on Advanced Advantage and exactly what Terror from the Underdeep is, we've got those videos are living on our YouTube channel. You can check them out and on our website.
Very cool. Let's move on to our last one we're going to talk about, also coming out in 2025, and that is Castle Whiterock. So I am completely oblivious as to what this is. So introduce me to Castle Whiterock.
I will. So, but the first thing I'll let you know is there's going to be this is going to be a campaign like no other campaign. This is going to be later in the year. And by the way, there's gonna probably be one more campaign this year that we haven't announced yet.
Okay.
So just throwing that out there too. So it's not
Very
everything,
good.
but we're calling this the year of Castle Whiterock. So there's gonna be probably a really big announcement when we get closer to the crowdfunding on some additional things going on
Hmm.
with Castle Whiterock. But this is the year of Castle Whiterock. So uh I'll first tell you what Castle Whiterock was, and then what the treatment is. And so back in the third edition days, when I first got started with Goodman Games, after I'd done a couple of smaller, what they call the skinny adventures, Joe Goodman wanted a mega dungeon. He wanted a big, huge. I want 10 levels and a dragon at the bottom. And I was
Hmm.
like, okay. So I started working on it, and it literally took me a couple of years. I had to bring another writer in on it. At one point, it was originally going to be a 96-page book, all right?
Hmm.
And then at one point, somebody said word count or page count be damned, and we embraced it. We embraced it like the Lego movie with our arms and our legs.
Oh my
And
goodness.
we actually produced a massive box set that was 732 pages long.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, so
Wow.
15 full dungeon levels, 14 sub levels, not one dragon at the bottom, but two. And we detailed the region where it was set in. We have a complete city that's nearby that we fleshed out and did poster maps for so that you can go in between where you're resting in between the adventures. And it was basically just a big old dungeon with all these levels. There's slavers at the top, there's orcs, there's troglodytes, there's all kinds of things, but many of the levels are all completely different. You do some planar hopping at some point. There's hidden Easter eggs, or there's one level that's completely in the rock completely, and you need to have to find a way to get to it. Like,
Oh wow.
it's not just you can't just walk into it. So that was cool, and it was a great project to work on. And when we got it from the printer, and we were literally at Gen Con in 2007, putting stacks of this huge box set, which back in 2007 it cost $100, which was unheard of
Oh my
for a box
goodness.
set back then. I mean,
Yeah.
$100 now is not commonplace, but more typical these days, especially with crowdfunding.
Right.
As we were stacking it out, Wizards of the Coast announced fourth edition, and it was like just all the air goes right out of because we were like, and it was great. We knew we still had a year to sell it, but
Yeah.
like we knew that it wasn't going to have the legs. And sure enough, it didn't sell great because everybody
Oh.
cared about fourth edition because,
Hmm.
oh, it's like we were literally setting our booth up when the word came that they announced fourth edition.
That's
And
insane.
back then in 2007, it really came out of left field. Like people didn't realize they were
Hmm.
doing it. It was, the internet was a thing, but not as much of a thing as it is these days.
Right.
So anyway, we still put it out there. It was huge. I'm still very proud of it and everything. We've gotten this request for years about when are we going to re-release this for an updated, rule system. And we're like, oh yeah, it's great, yeah, and everything. So then when I joined the company full time 4.5 years ago, like then people really started because I was the lead designer on that, and I brought another writer in. There was just two of us who did the writing on that.
On
So it
700
really,
pages?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh
I had a
my,
full-time job too,
oh my
so and yeah,
goodness.
that's why I had to bring another writer in on it. So, but it literally took us years to do it. Like, so when I wrote, so we numbered all of our adventures. I wrote DCC number 7, and then number 11,
Hmm.
and then number 13.
Hmm.
I coded 15, and then I didn't do another one from 15 until 51
Wow.
because because I started working on Castle Whiterock. So there was like 40 different adventures in between that I didn't do these little short ones because I was putting together this massive dungeon crawl. So,
That's
and this
amazing.
dungeon crawl, it's got everything in it. It's got compelling NPC stories, it's got backstories, it's got history of the dungeon. And part of it is the exploration of it and uncovering all the histories
Hmm.
of everything that's going on and finding out that, whoa, this level used to be controlled by this group and now it's controlled by this group, and why are this group here now and what is this group trying to do, all these different factions. It's just dripping with old school goodness.
Wow.
So we've known for a couple of years. Joe was like, all right, we're gonna do this, and it's like, wow. And I was like, we're gonna do this, and he's like, we're gonna do this.
That's
So
cool.
last year we started an organized play program at a couple of game conventions, and we set the organized play program in Castle Whiterock. So we actually converted a couple of the levels of Castle Whiterock and let folks play them. I've been running, I haven't the last year because I did a move and everything. So, but the previous 2 years, 2.5 years before that, I've been running a bi-weekly Castle Whiterock 5e campaign where I was updating the levels and then running them through my players
Hmm.
for 2.5 years, almost at clockwork every 2 weeks. We were something like 50 some sessions in or something like that, or 40 some sessions in. Um, so we're doing it. So finally, we announced last year we're doing it.
Hmm.
So this year, like I said, it's the year of Castle Whiterock. So there will be a 5e version of Castle Whiterock and a DCC version of Castle Whiterock. And
Okay.
by the way, it's not getting any smaller than the
Yeah, that's my next
so
question is how
if
much are
anything,
we
it's going to
adding?
get bigger. But we're also doing our organized play program this
Uh-huh.
year, which will be at GaryCon, Origins, Gen Con, and Gamehole Con will
Okay.
feature both 5e and DCC versions of Castle Whiterock. So if you're not familiar with what Castle Whiterock is and you want to
Mhm.
get your dip your toe into it, you can play our organized play programs. Our free RPG Day adventure will be Castle Whiterock themed. We
Okay.
actually commissioned a brand new. The beautiful thing about Castle Whiterock, you got all these levels and sub levels. Is it's actually pretty easy just to add more sub levels and
Yeah.
things like that. It's like, oh, just yeah. So we commissioned a brand new one. It'll be available in 5e and DCC. So
Okay.
free RPG Day, you'll be able to get, and that'll be the only place that you'll be able to get that specific sub level of Castle Whiterock. And then later on this year, we will release the huge box set that is, and we will be converting all 15 levels, all 14 sub levels, plus all the bonus material and that we've created, I've created over the years.
That's
Additional levels, additional things going on in the town. The town has a whole bunch of stuff going on that's related to the dungeon, so you can do adventuring there. It will be
that's
massive,
yeah.
and it's going to be a celebration of everything. Obviously, I'm tickled pink on it. I've got a design staff that's been working away at it for over a year now already. I've been working on it in between other things. To be honest with you, I wish I could work on it more.
Yeah.
So, but I'm overseeing it all and everything.
Hmm.
And then we got the DCC side is overseeing the DCC side of things. So, it's gonna be huge. And then there'll be other add-ons, and there will be stretch goals, which will probably add additional levels on, and all kinds of different extra things that we haven't even gotten all the way. We're developing a lot of that stuff now. So when we launch, we'll have a bunch of that stuff, but there will be even more as we get further into this year of White Rock. Obviously, the organized play
Yeah.
adventures can be incorporated into that. Some of them are brand new, some of them are converted levels. So yeah, so it's
That's
exciting.
that is exciting. It's I just released a I think in total probably about 47-page adventure, and going through and trying to make sure everything connects and where the key to this is here, the key to I cannot even imagine 700 to 800 pages and making sure that they all connect
Yeah, and
or give the
we did
information they're
some
supposed to.
amazing things. We did, like, for example, one of the things that was kind of confusing in a big, huge, sprawling dungeon like that was keys. You have
Yeah.
keys. You find a key here, and the key unlocks this over there. We made a key up for all of our keys and included that in. This is why it ended up being
Oh,
700 pages long.
that's
It was
good.
like
Yeah.
2 pages long. It's like the key that's found in room 1.1
Yeah.
actually unlocks the chest that's in 1-15. And we actually created an entire game master's aid for that. So you can
Hmm.
look at it real quickly and say, the key in this room goes to this place and goes that. We did all of those things. And then same thing, we did like
That's a good
NPC
idea.
lists and everything, and new monsters and new spells and everything, combine them all in one area and everything. Maps, we had a separate map booklet that
Hmm.
that you could just pull the map booklet out, so you didn't have to actually have the maps all in there and everything. So we're gonna do a lot of really cool things like that. We're player handouts. We had a ton of player handouts where it's like you open up the door, this is what you see, or
Yeah.
here's the journal page that's been ripped out or something. So all those things are in there, and that's what it just the project just took a life of its own, and we just totally embraced it and put a lot of love into
Oh,
it, and a lot of different things. And like I said, those levels there's a couple of them that are a little samey, but they're almost like they're all separate adventures. And there's in true Janelle Jacquet's fashion. There's multiple ways into the dungeon. If you want to skip the first 5 levels, there's a way to start on level 6. If you want to jump in on level 10, there's a way to jump in on level 10. Or do you just like level 3? Well, just pull level 3 out and play that. So we try to make things as usable as possible when we create these products. So
do you have certain levels in mind for 5th edition? Like is it like level 1?
It's start at first level and go to 20th.
Yeah,
So
nice.
yeah.
Very good.
So, and for the DCC side, it's going to be start as a funnel and go to 10th level, which we've not done before. We've never done all the way up to 10th level before.
Interesting.
So yeah, so you're going to be able to do that. And there will be in addition, at the conventions this year, there will be we run a funnel at Gen Con every year. We call it the funnel experience, for folks that kind of introduce them to DCC and the interesting play of that. And it'll be a Castle Whiterock themed funnel, basically.
That's
so
awesome.
Because the funnel is really how you create your character in DCC. So we needed to do that. It's like, so play the funnel, create your character, and then your character goes off in adventures in Castle Whiterock. And don't worry, there'll be like a compelling reason on why you'll want to do that. So
awesome.
In true DCC fashion.
Yeah, I'll be at both Gen Con and Gamehole Con, so I'll have to check out some of that stuff. So
yeah, definitely check those out. That'll get you a really, really good experience. But I will be at Gen Con as well, so hopefully I'll get to meet you. I didn't make Gen Con last year because I was moving, so sold my house, had a new house built, and moved in. Now last year was a year of change for me, so settled down, and I'm back to some conventions this year. So
awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely look forward to it. Cool. Let's go ahead and wrap things up. Any other thoughts on any of the projects or Goodman Games in particular before we take off? Or
no, we just folks check out our YouTube channel for all the latest news and everything. That's probably where you'll get most of the breaking news on all these things. Again, we're teasing this stuff out. If you are interested about Castle Whiterock or Dungeon Denizens 2 or any of the other projects we're working on, check out our YouTube channel or our website. You'll get information there. The link down below for the Castle Whiterock link will actually take you to the landing page where, again, you can sign up and you can be notified on advance. That one's going to be much, much later this year, probably October, November, something like that. So because we're still feverishly working on getting that all converted and getting all of our ducks in a row and everything. So so never a dull moment. So
awesome. Very cool. Yeah, I can't even imagine what a project like that looks like. That's got to be insane.
Lots of spreadsheets. Lots of spreadsheets.
Lots of spreadsheets. Yeah. Very cool.
We are deep into spreadsheets on these big things when you have all these different writers and designers and everything on it, and your name is on the spreadsheet somewhere, and your 11 monsters are buried in that one spreadsheet somewhere. I could actually sort that spreadsheet and find out just exactly your 11 monsters.
That's awesome.
If I want to. So and we use those tools all the time because we have to, because when you're juggling so many different things. But it's fun. I mean, I consider myself very lucky to be able to do this for a living. And to be able to, basically bring these amazing products to our fans who are eager, and they're always willing to be there for us. And it never ceases to amaze me every time I get into another meeting. It's like, what, we're doing this now? Wow, this is awesome. So keep an eye out. There's awesome things I haven't even mentioned that we haven't talked about yet that are gonna blow people's minds of things that we're doing. So
yeah, you are definitely living the dream. I would say that for sure.
Yes, I feel it sometimes. Sometimes I do feel like I'm in a fever dream.
Very good. Well, thanks again, Chris, for joining me. For all of you there at home, I hope you enjoyed all of this download of information. In the description below, you're going to find links to all of the good stuff, and also be sure to check out Goodman Games YouTube channel, where they will discuss all of the great things coming up. And I think that's going to do it for us. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. Thanks again to Chris for joining us. And
thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So thank you for giving me a forum to talk about our awesome products. I appreciate it.
No problem at all. We'll do it again for sure. So
excellent.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching, and on to the next.
Right. Bye.